Hello everyone, this video is not sponsored, and this retro-styled claw machine is made from mostly plastic bricks, and yet it actually works. And just like with the real thing, most of the time you're going to come up empty-handed when you play it. The company that made this is Pantasy. This has a little bit under 2,000 pieces, and I paid $130 US for it at Amazon. The suggested retail price is $140. I'm absolutely overwhelmed by the size of this thing. It is significantly larger than any modular building. And also its complexity and how many different types of materials and how much they put into designing this thing. I feel like it is completely tragically under-marketed. I think there's just so much more to this than anybody could ever imagine, unless you've already had it or you were the one that designed it. The height here is 17.5 inches approximately, or 44 centimeters. As I briefly showed you at the beginning, and I will show you significantly more throughout the video, you have two buttons here that actually work, and you have a joystick that actually works, although you don't move it side to side. You simply rotate it. These are all prints down here along the side over there. This is its own kind of I think it's a vinyl piece. It's a thick vinyl piece that is printed. There's another one there, another one on the other side. These are using stickers here. So the set does have some stickers, including some large ones. Just go ahead and point that out. That is one sticker over a bunch of pieces. You can leave it off if you don't like that sort of thing, but it is included if you want to have additional details shown here. These are all prints right here. This is also a vinyl piece, which is semi-translucent. It came with a plastic sheet to protect the glossy side of it. You see that this side is very glossy, completely scuff-free. It's trying to look like old globe glass or frosted glass, just the traditional style. There are lights behind there, a full LED string, which is bespoke. It's not just some generic, cheap fairy light string. It's a pretty nice, high-quality thing with flat cabling. This is a very thick vinyl or polystyrene sheet that is pre-printed. These are all just different colors. These are all prints right here. Unfortunately, I don't know, a lot of people don't like clowns. That's fine. That's fine. You can leave the clown off if it bugs you. But unfortunately, the eyes there and the smile are done with small stickers. The question mark blocks are printed. The eyes of the little bunny over here are printed as well. And you just see more details going around the sides and even around the back. They totally did not need to have decorations around the back. Although, strictly speaking, most of this just is completely plain around the back. It is powered by USB-C. So I've got one of my little USB battery packs over here. You just plug it in right there. And there's an on-off switch right there. Or it's just a button, a toggle button. And that actually does the exact same thing as the yellow button over here. This is for controlling the arm going back and forth. So it rotates around that kind of brown colored stock in the back. The stage background back there is its own, I believe, vinyl sheet, which is printed. You do have faux glass here, and that is shipped in a protected way. They actually have a nice thick cardboard sub box just to protect those, as well as plastic sheeting over the top of it. And then this button right here is to actuate the claw. So to make an attempt to have it open up, try to grab something, pick it up, and then you can rotate it around. Rotate the claw over to the deposit slot. Sorry, I don't know the proper terminology for this. I'm not a claw machine expert or scholar, but the spot over there where you drop it off, hit this, and it'll come out through this spout right here. And I'll show you the contents of the capsules inside of there. These are a pretty standard size. You can use just regular full-sized gachapon style capsules, and each of these has something in it. Again, I'll show you the contents of each later on. And then you also see right here, there is a little suggestion of a coin, and that's just for vanity's sake. It's supposed to represent a little gold coin or token, which you could pretend to put into this slot as if you're turning the thing on. It doesn't actually do anything. There's a little door off here to the side to just be able to retrieve that back. It's just a small little gimmicky thing that they added in. The last time I reviewed something from Pantasy that used capsules that needed to be added into it, it was their gumball style machine, dispenser machine, which had a top that was entirely too tight. And I suggested that you don't take the top off because of that what felt like a flaw to me. I suggested that you take the whole upper globe off. They literally listened to that feedback and they agreed. And when they designed this thing, they made sure that the top came off very easily. This is another either vinyl like PVC or polystyrene sheet that is just printed on one side with all one color. You can actually attach it to the surface down there, like you can push it onto some studs just in the corner, but the easiest thing is just set it there, and that just gives you easy access to dump your capsules in. Or if you find that they're completely stuck here where you can't get anything to be picked up, then you can put your hand in there. Also, if that's not enough, they also made it easy enough for the inner part of the ceiling to be pulled up and removed. There's one single pin back here. It's like a Technic axle with a stopper. You just pull that out to release the alignment of the stock back there, the crane arm stock, and then the four corners of this just lift up. They're only attached with a few studs each, and then you can truly open up the whole top, which is also useful for any potential debugging if anything goes wrong later on. And I'll explain why that is potentially a good thing to be able to have that access. Don't jump to any conclusions just yet. Again, all of this right here lights up, and there's also a sound brick in it. So when I turn this back on, it does have a timer in the base, so I did need to disconnect it and reconnect it. Because it will turn itself off, by default after time. But I push the button, turn it on. There's music. It does go on a loop. It does cycle, and then you have these nice lights all the way around, which are obviously very bright and very saturated. Because obviously I haven't turned down the lights in the room here, so this is a very bright space right now, and you're still able to see those. And the sound is loud enough, I'd say, to probably become annoying to folks after a while. Unfortunately, they don't give you the option to simply turn off that music. So for a lot of it, when I'm demonstrating this, I'm just going to mute the sound entirely to make sure that it doesn't annoy folks, because I know some folks will be perfectly fine with it, some folks won't, and I'll just keep it nice and easy. If you're very familiar with standard commercial claw machines out there, you know that there's a little bit of potential skill involved, as well as just kind of problem solving and identification of opportunities and moving the prizes around a little bit with early attempts if need be. And, just sometimes you're just not going to have any luck with just the way that the capsules are all arranged at one particular time. Now, interestingly, the very first time that I ran this was during my live build stream. Right when I finished building it, I ran it and I had amazing success, almost back to back to back with very few failures in between. I have not been able to replicate that. It was just luck of the draw of how the capsules happened to fall in there. So this does have very realistic odds to it, I would say, the way that it works, the way that the jaw works, the way that the controls work. Just in general, it's very, very effective. But, you can have good luck, or it can be very, very frustrating if you just keep coming up short with, nothing being captured by the arm. If you find yourself having too much trouble, feel free to cheat and open up the top, move some things around a little bit, and hopefully have a little bit better luck after you've rearranged the capsules. But if you really want to make it easier, just reduce the number of capsules in there to begin with, so you have a little bit more space to move around and maneuver that hand when it comes down. The fact that this is fully playable is just mind-blowing. It's not even like a miniaturized version. This is effectively a full-size version. I mean, obviously, most claw machines are larger than this, but it is fully functioning like a full-sized one, and it doesn't feel like I'm missing any of the claw machine experience here. This is the real deal, and it is built primarily from just bricks, normal pieces. They've got a single motor in there. They've got a whole gear train throughout there. Most of this is done with techniques that you're familiar with. Even these faux glass panes are attached with just Technic pieces, little Technic bushings in there. Now we need to talk about the Technic stuff, because I wanted to give this the most glowing review after just building it, and then initially having that first test of it. I wanted to give it the most glowing review of any set, at least of this year, because it just overwhelmed me in such a positive way. However, over time, I did experience some issues, and I want to talk about all the flaws that I've experienced with this, as well as potential ways to correct at least a couple of them. First of all, down here, the buttons are based on 2x2 bricks that have just a small button sticking out, and then they've just built up regular stuff around it to create more of a user-friendly experience. Rather than a tiny little button, you've got these large ones, and hey, this is absolutely perfect. Perfect click, nice consistency. It's the same every single time. This is great. Unfortunately, I had a manufacturing defect in the other button over here. It just doesn't have as much click to it. And over time, using this one repeatedly, it sometimes tends to get stuck. And I could tell that inside the little brick assembly, it just had a little surface mounted just the micro switch itself that was probably soldered just ever so slightly off to the side. So then that makes the button have to slide in sideways partially, and it just starts to wedge up against the edge a little bit. I will have to contact customer support to get a replacement for that because, well, it is technically working right now. I have experienced it getting stuck a little bit. Shout outs to Redondo Bricks while I was building this live, who suggested that I swap the buttons between these because this is the one that you need to use. So that one's good. I originally had this one over here, just the mechanism underneath, and now this is fine. I don't even need to use this button because only one of these needs to be used to turn it on and off. I just use this button back here. To talk about the bigger issue, I'm going to have to take a little bit of this top off because it has to do with the main grabber arm lifter and lowering mechanism. Again, they don't make this difficult. I'm just going to push down on the outside and pull this Technic pin, which has a stopper on it, straight up, and that's the only thing that's locating the top of the main arm that swings back and forth. Then after I do that, I should be able to lift this up again. It's only attached with a few studs in each corner, and then this entire top part should be able to pop off, and I just have much easier access now. Around the upper rim here, you see the cable that has the LEDs to light up the marquee. This does take quite a bit of time to kind of weave around through all of these little Technic pieces around the edges. They've got clear pieces around there to try not to obstruct the light too much. You do want to take care when assembling this. Make sure that all of the little white LEDs pieces themselves are always facing outward. Just effectively make sure that the cable is always flat and always facing in one direction, specifically with the little white bits facing outward, and then you'll be good to go. Just be patient with that. This is the cable that supplies juice to the LED line itself. It's all just one single run that ultimately crosses over itself. And then over here, the blue is the cable that connects to the back of the motor. So the motor unit is right here, this black piece that looks kind of like one large brick with a rounded corner on one side. And then you've got kind of a gearbox over here with an interesting clutch mechanism that allows a single motor to control this going up and down on a ball chain. Actually, there's a ball chain, which is pretty nice. Two of them, in fact. And there's a clutch mechanism that allows it to slip just a little bit and kind of hold one of those chains back just long enough to widen up the arms to make, or excuse me, the individual sides of the claw there to make it open up while it's going down and when it also needs to drop. However, in order for that to work, in order for that clutch mechanism I just mentioned to work, these gears right here, these little gray ones, have to have some friction in them. They are what cause that clutch to engage, or to disengage, rather. They force it to disengage when this goes into its reverse direction. I'm not going to be able to show you the whole thing because I would need X-ray vision or a full computer animation to explain it to you and to really show you how it works. But trust me when I tell you that this right here needs to have friction, and there is one on the other side. The only way to get that to have friction is to build it the first time tightly. There's an axle pin right here, or excuse me, an axle with a stopper at the end of it. Sorry, I'm just spending a lot of time looking here, but this is what it's all about. There's an axle with a stopper. You can see it right there. And then those two need to be squished together to create friction in that space. Here's what the full mechanism looks like without the motor attached. And again, it's the white axle with the stopper that you can see the end of right there, and then the small gear. So looking back a little bit farther, this is what the clutch mechanism looks like. Here's just a perfect side view of it, and basically these can move just a little bit relative to one another to cause one of these chains to be held back when this goes into its downward movement again. And this is all on that same center axle. This is the mechanism, and this is specifically the step where you need to combine those two together. You need to put force in there from the end and then to the gear itself. And I'll demonstrate exactly how that needs to work. So this is basically a model of the exact same system right here. I've just kind of reversed things around to make it easier for you to see. But there's an axle with a stopper on it, right? So this is able to just spin. Normally when you build things with Technic style pieces, you always want to make sure that something is just slightly loose like that so that it can spin freely and doesn't bind up. In this case, you need it to bind up. So if you build it a certain way, technically wrong by normal standards like this, now there is friction. Look at that. It's not spinning freely. That is exactly what you need to make this mechanism work correctly. And that is unfortunate because it's inconsistent based on who is building it and how. If you always have the same person building it the same way, they're going to have the same result. But give it to another person who doesn't build things the same way, you're not going to have the same result. That mechanism or that whole little subassembly right there should have been built with one of these involved in the system, a length of 2 of axle and then a length of 1 of pin, which has friction on it, has little friction pegs on it. As soon as you insert this into a pin hole, it has a fixed amount of friction. Always. Now I want to put that gear on there in any kind of way, and you can make this work in the same amount of space easily. It always has that friction. You might only need to have it on one side. I don't know if you need the friction of 2 of these, one on either side. You could have had the other one free spinning and then just one of them have the friction. I think that would have been enough to cause the clutch mechanism to work properly. But as it is right now, this is definitely a design flaw. And as a result, you will see and hear from some people who had 0 problems with this whatsoever and don't know what I'm talking about or think that I don't know what I'm talking about. I guarantee you I do know what I'm talking about, because if you build it like this, it will not work. How do I know? The first time I built it, when I was showing it on the stream, I actually built it wrong. I left one piece out. There is right here, that bushing, that little black bushing. I missed it on this exact step, step 147, and eventually the clutch pack kind of separated itself out after I was using it again and again and again. So I had to take this apart, fix that, recognize my mistake, fix the mistake. And when I put it back together, I put it back together with less friction in this joint right here. And it took forever for me with trial and error, trying everything out. I even took to filing down this bushing a little bit to see if that was the issue, if it was binding up. And nope, it ended up being just right here. If this is built the way that it needs to be, tightened up like this, the mechanism works 100%. If it's tightened up too much, it's going to strain the motor, but it's still going to work. If it's just a little bit loose to where it can free spin, it doesn't work. That is, again, a design problem. It is a symptom of a designer that unfortunately just missed something and always tests their own creation a certain way. Technically the wrong way. When you do this, that is always the wrong thing to do for Technic style builds. You never want to do that. It should always be bad. This is the first time I've ever seen it be required, but also they didn't test it. Just the company in general didn't test this thing and have it be built by enough different people with different sets of parts. You have to get different parts from different, especially with mechanisms that are this specific, you need to get different batches of parts from different lots that have been made at different times to make sure that your mechanism isn't just working because you happen to have just the right parts that have the right amount of wear on them or the right amount of manufacturing tolerance allotment that's been taken up in one direction or the other. A little bit larger, a little bit smaller. So definitely an absolute design flaw there that is fixable. Again, we can fix it without changing any parts out by just making sure that we squeeze these two together when we're initially assembling it. But otherwise, if you are familiar with Technic builds and things, you can use, like I said, that 3 long piece that has length of 2 of axle and length of 1 of the pin with friction on it. Swap out a few of the brick pieces in there and you can make this work 100% of the time without any special tricks. There's also one other relatively small, relatively low impact Technic mechanism design flaw. You can see on step number 66, you add this large bevel gear here, which is facing down, the large black one. Unfortunately, that one doesn't really have enough space to live when you place this the topper over it, the plates with the tiles to give you the vanity top and also to locate everything into place. This all gets really squished into place. Now, technically, it does still work. You know, it's not so strong that I'm not able to turn this. It does actually stick up just a little bit right in there. I can actually feel that there's a hump in that space. But you know, this is able to still turn, and the more I use it, the more it gets kind of broken in. But it did feel like there was just not enough space there, the way that the kind of the math, the brick math works out for it, for all of these things to quite fit together, at least with the parts that I received. Again, there are manufacturing tolerances, and some pieces that are older might, you know, have easier clearance underneath there, but the parts that I had definitely left this way too tight, uncomfortably tight, which I personally just consider a design flaw just from my experience of building a ton of Technic mechanisms in the past, both regular sets as well as some of my own designs. And it's just one of those things you tend to recognize over time that, oh yeah, when this happens, when I feel this, that means that I need to redesign that and give it the space that it needs without giving it the ability to move out and slip. You don't want the gears to be able to slip. And it's tricky when you're dealing with sideways construction and going back and forth between Technic builds and regular brick builds. They are on compatible systems, but they are not always happy to work together by default. Again, these capsules are a pretty standard large size, and each one has a pre-built toy in it. And I think they did a much better job this time around than they did with the gumball machine. I mean, some of these are very simple builds, but I think they're charming enough, and I think that they make sense in the context of products from a brick company, a brick-based toy company. So this is a circus tent right here. You got the suggestion of a locomotive. This is a nice one. This is like the main prize. This is the peak, the height of it, because it has this extra capsule inside of it, which is gemmed on the base, and then you get the teddy bear there, which has the print on it as well. But obviously, it's not going to be everybody's favorite. But you know, it's a nice inclusion. This is another animal inclusion. This one is a cat, which also has a printed face on it. I didn't expect to see the print there. So that's that one. And then this thing, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's supposed to represent. I just don't know. Is it just like a cone thing that you can like kick and move around, or is it supposed to be a top? Or I don't know what that's supposed to represent. It looks kind of cool though. This is obvious what it is. Just a gift. There's nothing inside there, but it's just a gift. So you can use your imagination and try to think of what that might be. I like this one a lot. It once again has the question mark block prints all the way around it, but it's jack-o'-lantern. Yeah. They use just a printed, I mean, some people won't like that, the look of the face, but they just use a printed cylinder inside of there, and that definitely works, if you ask me. And this last thing, I don't know what it is, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to interpret it. I just don't know what it is. My wife said maybe it's supposed to be like a tarot card. I don't know, you let me... All you experts out there who know exactly what it is, let me know. But anyway, those are the contents of the capsules. Not too bad, but obviously you can put anything in here, and you can pretty much use pretty standard size, large, medium to large capsules in this. A little bit of a variety of size will work, but you can just go on Amazon or something if you want to populate this with more. Again, I recommend that you put less in there for more success. It'll be more difficult if you put more of them in there. Slightly different shapes might be easier or a little bit harder, but definitely you have some options for how you can populate this thing, because once you do have it working right, it does work really, really well and consistently as a hands-on toy and a hands-on little vintage arcade thing, right? This set is an absolute triumph of aspiration. It is very, very large. So much care went into not only its design, but also even its packaging. I mean, how much care went into protecting the parts that are relatively fragile, that could easily be damaged as far as how they look. You know, this came from Amazon, and these panels right here are completely clean and clear, and they're large. You know, this came in a large box with a lot of pieces, a lot of heavy stuff. The electronic mechanisms work, with the exception of that one button over here. I believe that that's just a fluke. That's what I'm going to believe, without any evidence to the contrary, that I just got bad luck with that. But hopefully I'm right about that, and that's not a common quality control issue with this particular component. The lights are fantastic. The structure does work well. The size for the price, even if you aren't able to get any sort of promotional discount on this whatsoever. I see Pantasy stuff 10% off easily, very frequently, but even at $140 US for what you get right here, this is an unbelievable value, especially by today's standards. To be this size, to have this many different materials, this many large pieces, and all the electronics as well, holy heck. It just kind of doesn't make sense. And I was fully expecting to make this one of my most positive reviews possibly ever, and to really just kind of go into overdrive doing a little bit of work for Pantasy just on a volunteer basis, because I feel like they deserve it, because they didn't do that good of a job, honestly, of marketing this, in my opinion, for what all is here. If you look at the official pages for it, whether it's on like Amazon or on Pantasy's own website or something, you'll see that, yeah, it does mention that it has light and sound, and you can make the claw go up and down and stuff, but they don't show you a video of it working, and they really don't just pump up what all is here. This is a very significant achievement here. Also, while I was building it live, a lot of people said that it looked so much better on my cameras, in my views, what I was showing than on the official Pantasy website and the official product photos, because their photos are washed out. They're all like really, really, really flat and pale. The red color looks just pale. All the colors just look really pale. This is a very vibrant thing. Look at these colors. These are primary colors. It's like in your face. It's very, very present in a space. The only thing that could make it better, since they are using electronics and lights in there, the only thing that could be make it better would be some actual floodlights inside. So when you turn it on, the inside lights up. That would have been really great to see. Definitely. They could have used a little bit less of the lights behind the marquee, although I like what's there. They could have taken out some from there and just had two little floodlights relatively closer to the front. I think would be best to just light this up and just really bring attention to it. And then also having, rather than this button being on off, you can just have the one on the back is fine. It's easy to access. I don't know. A button to turn off the music would have been great, or at least a switch or something, just some way to turn off the music for folks who don't want to hear that continually, because it is just one single tune that loops. You can easily get tired of it, and there's no easy access to the sound brick that gives that out. But ultimately, the biggest issue here is what I mentioned in the assembly for the gearbox and the clutch and everything for the claw arm and the claw hand itself, which is just a bad design. Again, if you build it just right, hey, you will have great fortune with it. I've spent quite a long time using it. Once I learned, after I spent almost 2 hours trying to figure out what exactly was going wrong after my rebuild of it, and trying negative verification as well, assuming that the conclusion that I arrived at was incorrect, and trying everything else and trying to prove that what I found was wrong was actually not wrong, and that I was wrong about that there was actually something else that was responsible for it, something else I had done wrong. I really put time into making sure that I understood what was going on here. But after I got it right, and without rebuilding the thing, or without changing its design, simply squeezing these parts together like that, so that it would always have friction in there, it worked I used it for like 45 minutes straight. You saw some of the footage used in this video, but I did a whole lot of verification testing as well to make sure that indeed this is something that I could say with confidence is a fix, a good fix. And maybe it'll loosen up over time, over a lot of time, but it's easy enough to go back in there without taking anything apart. Just pop the top off, put your fingers in there, and just squeeze from either side on that. But it is really unfortunate that that issue is an issue, that it's there. It's a design flaw, and it just needed more testing. And it's the same sort of thing, same level of issue as with the bevel gear underneath here. The fact that it's stuck, that's just compressed in there. No offense, but it's a sign of a designer who just doesn't quite have that level of understanding of production equipment and production design, and just how careful you need to be and how fault tolerant you need to be. You have to understand that different people will build things differently. You have to understand that if you're able to push things together and it seems fine, but there's a little bit of bulge in there, just a little bit of extra friction, that's actually a problem. And that's something that should be fixed, ideally. In this case, that part is okay. That part is not, because anybody who builds that the correct way with that little bit of, so this is free spinning like you're supposed to with all the other gears in the base of this, is going to have a thing that doesn't work, that doesn't do its main thing. And that would be extremely, extremely frustrating, which then leads to what? 1-star reviews. It leads to returns. It leads to reduction in seller, official Pantasy seller rating on Amazon, as they are, they'll mark an item as frequently returned. Like, it just has this whole domino effect that goes down the line. And this company has the potential to do great things and to really, really blow up over time. They've got tremendous potential. Clearly, they just need to be extra careful, need to be extra slow, and recognize that this is serious now. They are in the big leagues. They are trying to compete against a major monopoly control from one company that makes $2 billion net profit per year after overspending. This company can fight them and can win on merit. They just need to be a little bit more grown up, a little bit more professional, a little bit more experienced. And they're that close. Like I said, this was going to be my most positive review of all time, but I obviously can't be, because there are some flaws and I just can't gloss over that stuff. But I want them to win, and they're so very close. Thank you for watching. I hope that this was useful to you. Yep, super long. I'm yapping a lot. Some things might have been repeated, but I don't do scripts for these. I'm not going to do scripts. I don't feel good with the idea of doing scripts and just reading stuff off to you and pretending like, like I'm actually talking to you when I'm actually just talking at a script that I'm just reading off of a page or off of a monitor or something. So this is how I do my videos. It's heartfelt. I am telling you how I feel, and I'm speaking as I am recording for the very first time. And yep, that's how I will continue to do it. Again, thank you for your support. I'll talk to you again soon.